Hi, we are live and we are on the Art Football podcast. This is your girl Cleveland Kate, and right next to me is Sonia. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hey.
You know, it wouldn't be a Kate and Sonia show without a whole lot of technical difficulties. I'm sure one of us will lose connection in the middle of this, and the other one will just have to keep talking. This is what happens when Dana and Lisa leave us alone.
Yes, they let the inmates run the asylum kind of thing. But it's okay. We're going to have a good time. We're going to talk some fantasy.
We are all talking about fantasy football. If you are watching us on the Twitter or Facebook, you might want to jump on over to YouTube. On YouTube, you can chat with other folks in the chat room, and then we can see them. We can answer questions if you have any. Camden and Graham are already here. Hey.
Hey, guys.
And I think I know how to put their comments on the screen if we get any good ones. We'll see how I do. We are very proudly this season sponsored by Donkeys. Donkey's Place, straight out of Camden, Mount Holly, and Medford, New Jersey. Delicious, amazing, wonderful cheesesteak sandwiches, and huge football fans over there at Donkey's Place. And they just love the ladies at our turf. So they are sponsoring our podcast again this year. And also the trophy for our fantasy football league, the Donkeys League. The Donkeys Cup is pretty sweet. I got to say. Was that the draft we had this weekend?
No, that was
the Our Turf Fantasy League.
That was the OG league. Yeah.
I got an A on my draft. Thank you very much. It means absolutely nothing. There are years that the website platform that we used, we use NFL.com for that one. I've done the ESPN fantasy app, and all of them give you like a score for your draft. I will get A's and B's and finish dead last in my league. I will get C's and D's and win a trophy. I think drafting is important, but I think what you do when you face adversity, when you lose someone to injury, how you play the waiver wire and how you work the bye weeks is a little more important than the draft. What do you think, girl?
No, I'll agree. I think it's just, you get the hand that you're dealt, and then you got to just work with it and rock with it, lean with it, rock with it. And yeah, like you said, it's how you deal with adversity. It's stashing your bench, like for real. It's stashing your bench. And it's kind of hard because none of us have crystal balls. But in my opinion, it's how you do your bench. Totally.
It's an aspect of the game that really makes you feel like a general manager or like you're working in the front office. I've always wished that you could swap people out at halftime.
Agreed.
If somebody gets hurt in the first half, you don't play without a running back for the whole game in the real world. You don't play without a wide receiver or a quarterback or whatever. I would like to see rosters be adjustable in the second half of a game so that if someone is injured or if they're just not performing, you can bench them and put somebody else in.
I agree.
How often have I seen the highest player on my team as someone I left on my bench?
Mm-hmm. Always happens. I wish you could do like one switch. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like, I mean, it might not make all the difference in the world, but I think that would be a lot.
Well, and the technology has to be smart enough to know that if I've got Zeke Elliott in and Nick Chubb on my bench, I don't know why I would do that. And Zeke's got no points in the first half and Nick's got 20, that I could put Nick in. And don't give me the 20 for the first half. I get it. I don't get those. But odds are he's going to get me more in the second half than Zeke did. Because by then, his team is down so far they can't run the ball.
Exactly.
And those are decisions too, right? If you look at if you're that into it and you're looking at the halftime scores and you see that your team is blowing, one of the teams is just completely blowing out their opponent, I'm going to go look and see if I have one of their running backs on my bench because they're going to want to slow things down.
Exactly.
Just those kind of things, I think, should be an option. If you want to set up your league, if people want to micromanage, I wouldn't have time to do that every week. But on the weeks where I have time,
yeah, that'd be fun to do. I think it would be totally fun to do. What grade did you get on your draft?
I got an A.
You got an A? I got
an A. They're predicting 11 and 4.
I think they're predicting 11 and 8 for me. At what position were you?
6 out of 10.
Okay, I was 10 out of 10.
Which isn't bad. And in a 10-team draft, even going last, you struggle with that first round, but you get those back-to-back picks every time, which are nice. I don't know who has the team hurt so good. Every time I had a player in my queue that I was going to take next, it was their turn, and they took him. They got like 4 of my guys, one spot before me. I was like, Urgh.
And so, that is what drives me insane because you have your plan, you have it all
Yep.
set, and then somebody gets your player.
And it's interesting. That league is especially interesting for me. I'm in 4 leagues. 2 of my other leagues are all Cleveland area people. So
Okay.
Nick Chubb's going to go first. The Browns defense is going to go. Like Deshaun Watson will go. Like the Browns, we are all homers in both of those leagues. I find it interesting in a draft that's really, I want to say international. It's across state lines. It's people from wherever. I think we do have one Cleveland girl in that league, and in the Donkeys League, there aren't any. I always find it interesting to see like when Nick Chubb goes and when some of the other players for my team go, because they're not homers. They don't have any loyalty to my team. I did get a running back at 6. I'd have to go look at my roster. I debated what to do when we talk about the first 2 rounds, especially. Everyone says running back, running back, running back. But I think, and this year's no different, you get to a place where Pat Mahomes or Josh Allen might be worth more than the running back you're going to get at 9 or 10. Or Travis Kelce seems to go very early. From a tight end perspective, you've got Travis Kelce and then pretty much everybody else way down here. With quarterbacks, I think we have 3 or 4 that are worth drafting really high. And then again, you have that huge group where then there's, a drop off. And so I see that. I like looking at the NFL.com app has this feature where you can look at the board and the players are color coded by position. And you'll see all this orange for running back and then a blue and then all this orange again and then a green. And then it's like, oh, someone took the best QB off the board. Then they'd rather have the best quarterback or the best tight end or the best wide receiver than the number 12 running back or the number 8 running back. And if you look at projected points, that's a philosophy that makes sense. Depending on where you're picking, that makes a lot of sense. Who did you get in the first round?
So let's see. I actually went 2 wide receivers. I went back to back with my wide receivers. So I got, who did I get?
Did you get Jamar Chase?
No, actually I got Stephon Diggs and AJ Brown. So, not bad. Not bad at all.
No.
I was debating, and I could have had Saquon and Nick, I think. But I was like, you know what? No, I could have had Saquon and Dalvin. And I was injuries, I really wanted to, but injuries really just kind of prevented me from like going all in. So I did that. So I was like, I'm going to do something different this year. I'm just going to go wide receiver. And the number 1 player in the draft, according to like a lot of these rankings, has been Justin Jefferson, the wide receiver out of Minnesota. So, every now and then it is nice to change it up some.
It is. I know so many people who are diehard running back first 2 rounds no matter what. And I question that just because, again, when you look at their projected points over the course of a season, I think I'd rather have a couple wide receivers like you did. But I got Nick Chubb at 6. Okay. And then it snaked around. So that's 10. So I went like 15, 13, whatever my number ended up being around. And I got Bijan Robinson out of Atlanta. I was surprised he was still there. He is in the top 3 or 4 on every mock draft that I've seen, on every draft board that I've seen. I don't know that much about him. I had to go look him up. I'm like, wait, what? Did he get hurt in training camp? Like, is there something? Because all those articles come out, right? End of July, early August, the preseason rankings. And I'm like, why is he still available in the 2nd round? And I got him. And it was funny because you get an email from the app giving you your grade. And it was like the steal of the draft was getting B Robinson in the 2nd round. And I'm like, I hope he stays healthy because I don't know what Atlanta's going to do. That whole
I hope
team.
He just has a good season. He's one that I'm kind of excited to watch this year. So I'm really hoping that he does well. So you got to steal with that one, I think.
I did, but then I also get nervous with the Falcons because how often are they going to be able to run the ball and how much running are they going to be able to do? And I feel like they're going to be behind and they're going to be throwing a lot. Do you factor those kind of things in when you're picking a player? Do you look at their team and how you think they fit, or do you just really look at the rankings that the professionals have given them?
Honestly, I kind of look at the rankings and just kind of let it go. I just kind of go from there. And then after the draft, then if I need to, I might do some tweaking, maybe, I try and just like really just stack up my bench really good so that, and this year I did a really good job. So I think I'll be able to kind of make changes and tinker around with things if need be. So that's kind of what I do.
We got a question from Peter. If I can figure out hi, Peter.
Hi, Peter.
How to show it. Biggest sleeper, Elijah Moore, maybe Kate. Listen, I'm going to tell you what. He went undrafted in our league. And there is a very high probability that if Deshaun Watson and Amari Cooper in Cleveland don't hit it off, Deshaun and Elijah will. He is somebody that probably will go undrafted in your league, but somebody that you should keep an eye on. If you've got space on your bench, grab him in a late round. If you need somebody early on to fill in, the trouble I have is I never pay attention to the bye weeks. I just get the best players I can get. Yes. And then Monday morning, thank you, Graham. I get my Monday morning hangover. I go look at my draft. I'm like, oh, every single run, all my running backs are on a bye the same week, or all my so now I've got to go make roster moves before the season starts to make sure I've got somebody that's available on that bye week. Elijah Moore really, from a talent perspective and all of that, is poised to be really good. It's all going to be about Deshaun Watson in Cleveland. If Deshaun and him connect, it could be crazy from a fantasy perspective. I think he's a huge sleeper, and I think he's definitely someone, like I said, he went undrafted in our league. I just put in a waiver claim for him while we were sitting here, and I'm like, oh, I didn't look up. Dang it. So he's a sleeper. So philosophically, I did go running back this year, and I usually don't. I never pick in like the top 5. I'm in 10-team leagues, and I'm in a 16-team league, and I don't know if I've ever picked top 5. And so there's never a good running back left for me. So I usually go Travis Kelce, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Cooper Kupp, somebody like that I know is going to get me points. At least I have the number one guy at some position, right? And then I fill in running backs. Is that you went wide receiver this year?
Yeah.
At what point do you worry about, do you just let the tight ends and quarterbacks fall to you? Like by the 6th round, I had 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a quarterback, and a tight end. Like I had my core by round 6.
I was about to say, I think I went wide receiver, then running back. So then, I just then I was like, all right, now I got to get going on these guys, because definitely your quarterbacks and tight ends can make or break you in some cases. So I was like, let me get going on that.
And then did you grab a second quarterback?
Huh? Did I get a second one? Mm-hmm. Oh, of course. Always.
I always do too. And people are like, why you need Pat Mahomes and Deshaun Watson? And I'm like, because somebody's going to want Deshaun by week 4 and is going to trade me something big for him. And I'll do that deal. Mm-hmm. Do you use strategy to decide when you want to do like a defense or a kicker or a defensive player? I can tell you that I saw some come off the board, and then I'm like, oh, I should probably go look at that position. And then I went and looked. But I have friends who the last 3 rounds are, if there's a defensive player, that's like this round, and then second to last is defense and last is kicker. I know people that don't even draft a kicker and go pick one up later. Where are you at with those kind of positions?
I can believe that. So usually, so I got auto-picked a defense and a kicker. And it was seriously because I was just texting. And I was like, oh, dang it. And I looked back and I was like, okay, I'll rock with this. It's not bad. But usually,
so that's a warning I'll give to everybody. If you're doing an app and you're on your phone, I've checked the settings. I can't find it anywhere. If I leave the draft to go answer a text from one of my kids or look at something and go back, it doesn't set off the sounder that says you're on the clock. Right. It just counts me down while I'm sitting there. I think if you're on like a laptop or a tablet or something like that, the sounder still goes off. So just be really careful if you're on your phone that you don't skip a turn. Or I try to keep a bunch of players in my queue, just so if I get thrown on auto draft, there's at least people that I'm familiar with that are in my queue. So it'll at least take me names I know.
Exactly. And so, but normally though, if it's not auto picked, I usually just will pick somebody who has a decent defense. And then I'm not married to that defense at all throughout the season. Same with the kicker. If there's somebody, Justin Tucker, he went early. He went early in our
He
draft. I
did.
think he went like third or fourth round.
Which,
he's good.
4 years ago, Justin Tucker, I might have taken that early. I don't know what he's going to be this. I mean, he's getting older, right?
True.
And then it's, for me, with the kicker, it's, if they're scoring touchdowns all day and they're winning games 35-0, I'm getting 5 points for my kicker. I want Cleveland's kicker, although I didn't take Cade York and apparently he got waived. I'm taking Detroit's kicker. I'm taking Miami. I'm looking at last year's teams that struggled to get touchdowns and had problems in the red zone and had to settle for field goals, because that's where I'm going to get fantasy points.
Exactly. And that's kind of my thought too. So, but yeah, so kicker, same thing. I'm not married to those guys. I will definitely rotate them, platoon them, do what I got to do. Whoever's got the hot hand, that's usually what I do.
Graham says sometimes it's better not having a defense. Graham, true story. I lost a game last year where I was up by 5 going into Monday Night Football, and all I had going was my defense, and my defense got me -7 points, and I lost. I should have benched my defense. There are times when you're better off benching your defense because of the negative point opportunities than having one at all. I treat them the same way that you do, Sonia. While you can get a lot of points week to week, I am not married to any of my defenses, my defensive player, or my kicker. Nope. I am dropping and picking up off waivers, whoever the hot guy is, week to week, and flipping those 3 positions around. I will ride out a tight end, a wide receiver, like any of the other skill positions. I will ride them out all season. Even if they have a bad week, I might bench them for a couple weeks and see how they're doing, but they're still on my roster. I don't take up roster spots I have one kicker, one defense, one defensive player. And usually what'll happen is I'll get to one of their bye weeks. So I'll pick up a replacement and I'll just drop the other one.
Exactly.
And then I don't care if I ever see him again. I'll just pick up someone new and go with that. I just don't, until they find a way in the leagues, until I'm in a league where the manager does something crazy with the scoring and gives field goals 12 points or does something insane. Maybe that's what we should do in the Archer League.
Actually,
Lisa miserable is we should double up. She wants a 2-quarterback league, and I'm not having it. We should double up the points for a kicker.
I in the Donkeys League, because I'm commissioner there, I actually gave a little bit more credence to the defense this year. So, I mean, while it's not like a huge amount of points, it's still, you're going to get some points, especially if your team, if your defense, has a really good game, shuts them out, or doesn't give up a lot of yards. So,
I think it's very important if you're going to do fantasy to know more than just, is it a PPR league, to really take a minute and look at the scoring. I'm the commissioner for my league at work. And I adjust the kicker scoring on, if it's 0 to 30, I give bonus points for a 30 to 40 yarder, 40 to 50 and beyond. And then for a miss, I subtract less points. If you miss a 50 yarder, it's not -3, it's just -1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
that makes sense.
And I wanted to make it 0, but it made me, I had to give it a -1. But your commissioner can go in and make all kinds of adjustments to the scoring. You can make suggestions on that. But it's important to go in and look at that. PPR, most especially, can change how you select a running back and how you select a wide receiver. And if you're Googling, draft order and draft position and values and stuff, it's an important thing to know and to look at, because a lot of times they'll project running back stats based on PPR. And if you're in a league that doesn't give you 1 point per reception and you have a running back like Kareem Hunt in Cleveland last year, had as many points for catching the ball as he did for yards. If you're not in a PPR league, you don't want that guy, right? So you've got to, if you're going to go to the internet and Google things like that, you've got to also pay attention to what your scoring is like in your league and look and see if your manager did anything creative that he or she didn't mention to you in your, and then week 1, you're like, wait, where did I get these points, or what happened to these? Then when you go look, it's a little late because you've already drafted your team.
Exactly. So if you're in the Donkeys League, please keep an eye out for that. I mean, it's not like I said, it's not like a whole bunch of points, but it still is a little bit more just to kind of give them a little bit more of an edge. And just to say, hey guys, we're using our defense, guys.
Yeah, Becky's got it, and this could be said about quite a few of the positions. There isn't enough spread between kicker 1 and kicker 12 at the end of the season to worry about picking one before the last few rounds. She's absolutely right. It's not like, like we talked about, a Travis Kelce, a Pat Mahomes, a Josh Allen. You want to get them in one because the next guy you get is such a big spread that you got to be grabbing people. That run starts in 4 or 5 because it could be a difference. If you get a kicker in round 1 or a kicker in round 12 or no kicker and you pick one off waivers, at the end of the season, it's maybe 30 points from best kicker to worst. And over a 17 game, 16 games with playoffs and all that, it's, a couple points a game. It just doesn't matter. And then Camden agrees with what we said earlier. Choose a good kicker on a team with a bad red zone offense. Yes. That's exactly right. If you're picking a team where the kicker led the league in field goal attempts last year, that's a good kicker for fantasy football.
Exactly. Exactly.
Do you have any fun names for your teams this year? What are your team names?
Okay, so our Donkeys League one is I Diggs it after like Stephon Diggs. It's a fun one. Our OG OTFB league. Okay, this one you got to work with me a little bit. I still might change it, but okay. So usually for that league, I take any Lions player and just kind of make a pun on their name. So last year it was a penny for your thoughts, a penny for your thoughts, like Penny Sewell. So this year, Graham Glasgow is back on the team, offensive lineman. I think he's a backup center. And so in nursing and in medicine, whenever we are assessing a patient who comes in, with any kind of neuro issue, we do the Glasgow coma scale. And so
yes, I've heard of that.
Yes. And so we shorten it to GCS. So, and when you are alert and oriented, as we all are, you get a score of 15. So my team name is GCS 15. I may switch it. I don't know. Kind of geeky, but
I like it.
I'm glad you like it.
I like it.
What about you?
Our turf league team name is 50 Shades of Trey.
Okay.
And to be fair, I did that before Trey Lance got traded. I might keep that one. And in my work league, because I'm still a homer, it's Shake and Baker. We're going Shake and Baker. I'm keeping my Baker Mayfield ode to Baker. He ain't my quarterback anymore, so I can love him from afar. And when he plays poorly in Tampa Bay, I can be sad for them. I would not draft him on a bet, but we're the Shake and Bakers. I've had silly names over the years. I was Victoria's Secret one year, and then I was Romolicious before it was Romo,
Yeah.
People like to do the puns on the names. I always love your team names because they're always Detroit Lions. So then I'm looking on the roster to see who it was that you named your team after. And I love the one for this year. So I love it.
Okay, thank you.
I have a draft on tomorrow at noon, and I am going
random time.
It's at work. So we're all going to do it at work. I am going to let auto draft pick my entire team and just see what happens. I've never done it. I've never auto drafted an entire team. And then I'm going on vacation next week. So I'm going to be out the next 2 podcasts. Sonia, I will email you next Tuesday. Before I forget, is our annual Pick'em show.
Yes.
It'll be a good hour. It is one of it's one of my favorite shows of the year. I'm going to miss it this year, but I will send you my picks.
Okay.
And I love writing them all down afterwards. I'll go on YouTube and watch them and write down what everyone picked. And then usually mid-season, we look to see how everyone's predictions were going. And then after the season's over, we make fun of each other for our insane predictions. It's a super fun show. If you guys want to get your predictions in, you can give them to us on Twitter. You can do them here in the comments and join us here on YouTube. And you can get your 2 cents in on, and then we would love to hear from you. Which one of us you think is the craziest? It's usually me. Or which one of us you think? Dana's usually pretty spot on. It's a little scary. I like to grab those wild predictions just to make her and Lisa scream when I pick the Raiders to win their division or something crazy. Like I've picked the Jaguars like every year for 10 years because they've been that up and coming team. And then last year, I'm like, I'm done. That's it. I'm not doing it. And then they won the division last year. So I've decided that I'm a jinx. So I'm not going to pick them this year. So they'll win again. But just so between us, I think they're going to win their division. But I'm just saying, I'm not going to officially pick them because it's, So next week is the pick 'em show. And then it's super fun. And then the next week is football. Like, I can't believe this weekend will be a little quiet for y'all because there's no football while we take a break, right?
There's no NFL football.
There's no NFL. College season gets started. Girl, we're going to have some stuff to talk about in November.
Yes,
with your Wolverines and my Buckeyes. We may just tell Lisa and Dana to sit home a week in November, and you and I will do a college show getting up to that weekend. Because that's one of the best weekends.
Lisa to sit out because Lisa's going to. Well, okay, let's do it.
Lisa will pick the U. It'll all be about the U.
The U. The who.
The who. The who. There's some good rivalries that weekend. That's a very good, very fun weekend in sports. I feel like the NFL has gotten away from rivalry weekends and they've gotten more to that week 16, 17 divisional things because they're looking for playoff contenders and what games can they put on the schedule that may make or break someone's shot at getting in the playoffs. So I get it. That makes sense. But I don't know that the rivalries are as big as they used to. I just know from a fantasy football perspective, that's something else to check out too. In the leagues that I manage, we never have a game week 17. We play through 14 and then 15 and 16 are playoffs because too often week 17, they're sitting players. If somebody is so far and away, they've got 13 wins and a bye for all the way through the playoffs. They're resting people, or the guys just aren't giving it their all week 17 because they don't want to get hurt. I get it.
Right.
I can't complain. But then don't make me play fantasy team with players that have carried me through the whole season. And then I get to my Super Bowl and Jared Goff decides to take the week off.
Exactly.
I'll never forgive him for that.
Question. Speaking of rivalries, do you draft Steelers players?
No.
Okay. Just wondering.
I don't draft Steelers. I don't draft Ravens. Okay. I have drafted Bengals in the past. I did not get any this year because Joe Burrow was gone when I went to get a quarterback and Jamar Chase was gone. And I'm sorry, I just don't believe in Joe Mixon as a running back this year. I'm not feeling it. I feel like he's at the end of his shelf life, but I'm not morally opposed to Bengals. I can't have a Steeler or a Raven on my team. I just can't. It makes me feel dirty and gross to root for them to get me. And they play my team twice. And then it's like, do I bench them? So this is the other thing I struggle with. Do I bench guys that are playing against the Browns? Or do I play them because they're good with the thought being, well, I'll be sad if my Browns lose, but then I'll have the happiness of fantasy football points.
Exactly.
I struggle with
dilemma.
Sure some people don't care. And maybe, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a girl. I struggle with, I have my favorite team and then my fantasy team. I can't. Are there any players you won't draft? Any teams you won't pick from?
I try and stay out of the division. I try my hardest to stay out of the division. And let me look. I was
gonna say that should be pretty easy this year because there's not a lot of fantasy draft worthy players in Chicago.
No.
Maybe Kirk Cousins in Minnesota and Justin Jefferson. And
he can get you a couple
in Green Bay. I mean, Jordan Love might be a nice second quarterback to grab because if he plays well this year, if you're in a dynasty league or a keeper league where you get to keep someone, this would be a year to grab a Jordan Love or an Elijah Moore. Some of these sleepers, if you can grab them now, especially if you can get them on waivers. But if not, draft them in the very last rounds. Those are guys that it may be worth having them on your bench, even if it's all year, for the opportunity to keep them for future years. And I think Jordan Love, his ceiling is so high right now. I really liked what I saw from him in the preseason game. I thought the Jordan Love era is here. They are not going to miss Aaron Rodgers at all. It's funny that Aaron didn't have any weapons last year, but he took 3 of those non-weapons to New Jersey with them. But that just gives Jordan a whole new crop of guys to throw to.
Exactly.
We'll see how he goes. But there aren't, in my opinion, there are maybe 5 players in that whole division that I'd take in the first 5 or 6 rounds. So it's easy to stay away from them. For me, there's not a lot in my outside of Cincinnati. If you're looking at Pittsburgh and Baltimore, there's Lamar Jackson, there's Juju Smith-Schuster, there's the running back in.
Wait, I thought Juju was.
Oh, Juju's gone. I have Juju on the brain. I can't even draft him because he used to be a Steeler. You got Pickens and Pickett, which could be a very nice comp. I mean, there's probably a lot more that I could have looked at on those 2 teams. I just chose to stay away from it. I just scroll past them when they show up as next available player with the highest. I'm like, nope, can't. Nope. And I don't think it hurts me. I've had people tell me that, oh, you're blowing your chance at championships with it. I'm like, you know what? There's plenty of other options. And if I cared enough, I would go look at who I took instead. And at the end of the year, look at their points and see who had more points. I don't care enough. I didn't have any of the mental anguish of having to root for a Steeler or a Raven. And so I'm calling it good.
And all's well with the world.
Yeah, I think Lisa would have a harder time being a Dolphins fan, and in that division, I think she would have a very difficult time putting together a team with no Bills, no Jets, maybe not no Patriots, but even then.
I was about to say, I think she would definitely draft Josh Allen.
I think she would too. I don't think she cares about those things, but if she did, I think it's hard to stay away. Like in a division where all the teams are really good and all those points are going to be put up and stuff, I think she'd be a little more hard pressed than you and I are to avoid players in our division.
Exactly. I was about to say, and I think Dana, she might not draft a 49er.
I don't think she would unless she really had to. She's got some hate on for them.
She does. Respectfully, but yeah.
But in season. Not like, she's going to beat him up in the parking lot at a tailgate or anything, but.
Oh, God, no.
But no. But she won't come on a fantasy football team. Unless, even when Richard Sherman went, she was not happy. She was struggling with that whole thing. Okay, last question, and we're going to call it a night.
Okay.
You could change. I mentioned earlier that if I could change something about fantasy football, I'd want the ability to edit my lineups at halftime. Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you think you'd like to be able to do, or you would change, or you think would be a fun rule to throw in? I had someone once tell me that they'd like to have the referees as an option, where you could pick the referee, like where you get defense and special teams, that you can pick a referee. So you can play the referees instead of a defense, and every penalty is a point. And like every 5 yards in penalties is a point. So it's like a PPR. You get a point per a PPF, a point per flag, and then 1 point for every 5 yards they penalize. And you could choose to play the referees instead of the defense. And I thought that would be hilarious.
That would be hilarious. And I would especially say get the refs that are reffing a Lions game, because they will call everything.
Girl, they must be the same crew that does the Browns games too.
Right?
Because I shouldn't know referees' names. And there are some crews where as soon as I see who's in charge, I already know everyone who's going to be on the field. And I'm like, why do I know your name? Exactly. I shouldn't know your name in any sport. The guy in the black and white stripes, the guy behind the plate, the umpire, if you know the name of the referee, then they've had a little bit too much influence on that game.
Exactly. For sure. So what would I do? I probably would, like I said earlier, maybe just like make one switch with, like, if you had one of your guys on your bench go all the way off, maybe make a switch like that. And maybe you don't get all their points, but maybe like half or something like that. I think that would work.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. If any of you all have suggestions on things you'd like to see, feel free to hit us up on Twitter at OurTurfFB. Thank you so much for joining us. Here we go. There's Camden. Just don't get the Jets refs. They won't call holding. There are the crews that won't call anything. And then there are the crews where if I walk by you too closely, I have committed an unnecessary
flag on the play.
No, backup quarterback DTR, by the way, got fined $4,632 by the NFL for unnecessary roughness for a blindside hit. And you know what I say? Quarterbacks cannot commit unnecessary roughness.
No, they can't.
I don't even understand. But Josh Dobbs has been traded, and DTR is now my number 2. I'm pretty sure I told y'all that was going to happen 2 weeks ago.
You did.
I love DTR. I hope Deshaun does really well in Cleveland. I'll do my homer pitch now. I believe that DTR is the future of my franchise. So when we're done paying Deshaun way too much money,
Yes.
Dorian will be done with his rookie contract, and I will have my next if he stays healthy. Love this young man.
You'll have your next. You'll have
any
your
parting
next
comments, Miss Sonia, while I'm running the clock out, and Dana's going to be like, how long did you guys talk?
How long did you talk for? Parting comments, I would say our friends in Florida, please stay safe. Let us know that y'all are okay if you can.
Yes, please.
You know, all that good stuff. Lisa, board up the farms. Don't let the turkeys go away.
Or the goats. Or weather's starting. It's about September, right? Which is when we see the big hurricane activity and all that kind of stuff going on. So wherever y'all are, stay safe. Mm-hmm. And remember, fantasy football is supposed to be fun.
Yes. Do not, everybody put your right hand up. I, state your name, will not.
State your name.
Will not mean tweet any player.
Will not mean tweet any player.
Because it's a game.
Because
they do not care about your fantasy game.
2 things. Number 1, I can't stand when people do that. Do not tweet them either happy or upset about their performance as it relates to your fantasy team, because it's not about you. Let it go. But I will say, number 2, I asked a couple of the players at the combine this year if they played fantasy football, and one of them said that not only did he plays with his family, and his whole family said they hoped he got into the NFL so that they could draft him on his fantasy football teams, and he has forbidden them all from drafting him. He's like, you cannot put me on your teams. I will not be responsible for your scores. Not happening. Don't do it. And I just thought that was hilarious.
That's awesome. And if they get hurt, you say, I'm sorry. I hope you get better. It's not about your team. It's not about your team.
Let's be human. All right.
Yeah.
And for Camden, thoughts and prayers for Hawaii as well. There's just a lot of natural disaster kind of stuff going on all over with those fires in Canada, and then the hurricanes are they still hurricanes in the Pacific Northwest? Because we had all that rain and stuff going on in Washington State. I worked for a truck stop company in my day job, and we had sites that had to close. They evacuated the areas for flooding and stuff. And we're going to have the same problem down in Florida. And then the fires out in Maui and stuff. It's been kind of rough the last couple of weeks. So thoughts and prayers to everyone. Keep those kind of things in mind when you're getting stressed about your fantasy football team. There are real life things that could be worse. I'm actually excited when my biggest problem during a week is who I'm going to start and how crappy my fantasy football team is. If that's your biggest problem for the week, then you are blessed.
Exactly.
Hope you all have a great evening. Thanks again. Shout out to Donkey's Place.
Thank you, Donkey.
Camden, Mount Holly, and Medford. Get your cheesesteaks there. Order them online. Thanks for watching the podcast. See you next Tuesday.
Bye, guys.
Bye.